two, it's all Director McNaught, Director
Yeah,
McNaught.
We're missing.
We got two Steve.
Oh,
Two
she's
now.
on. She's over there.
All right, well, so should we go ahead and,
You know, yeah, I think
I
so.
mean, you didn't expect the guy, former Army guy,
Oh, yeah.
time, right?
He's supposed to be 10 minutes early.
All right, well, let's get going.
Um,
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We need to turn on our sound here. Are we going? We're good. All right. I'm used to that, hearing the voice from beyond saying recording. So we have a quorum. Do we have anybody participating remotely? And no matter to the public, no one has signed up to speak.
No one signed up.
All right, then next is approval of the minutes. The minutes were circulated. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Is there a second? Second. All right, all in favor? Aye. The minutes are approved. Financial report. Any?
Yep, so there's just been a few updates from last meeting. The first one of the general fund transfer for tax rebate. You can see that reflected in the February report. So it's there's been some significant transfer made since last month. There has been no change to the funds that we can use to leverage or support initiatives. And in addition, a small change in the CEVO BioHub Go Virginia Accelerator. Oh, I'm sorry, Habitat for Humanity Southwood. My apologies. In the expenditures and yeah, and that's it. And we have the updated report for the performance agreement for the draft status report. This is really nice, the changes that the staff made. So thank you very much, Emily, for.
I did have one question, because haven't we paid some money out to CV, to Central Virginia, because we did last year?
Yes, we're still working on.
Still working on it, okay.
Iterative. The only other thing we'll have for note, is maybe we'll talk to you or Director Johnson about what you guys prefer for performance period notes and how we track some of this stuff. Do you guys prefer, year 12 to 24? Do you want the whole year range? Just some final details on that. So we
Okay,
can-
great, but I think it's headed in the right direction.
Great, thank you for that feedback. Avery's worked really hard on
Yeah,
getting
thank
us
you,
to
Avery,
good
for
spot,
that.
so.
All right, so next we would normally move on to unfinished business, but because we have a large panel of experts here joining us, I decided to move them up to the beginning. So I'm going to hand it over to Emily to make the introductions on the discussion on the innovation corridor.
Thank you so much. So I'm really excited to welcome the front row of our meeting today. There's been conversations in the community among the economic development professionals dating back probably a year and a half, 2 years, even on there's so much going on. There's so much potential. When you think about some of the assets that are in the regional economy, investments that private sector and public sector have made, and when you start to talk about them together, it really starts to build this narrative of huge opportunities to come if we leverage them right. And so a group there's a big group that's been meeting for almost 2 years, a small group formed, which is sitting with us today. And we're really starting to kind of gel around a message and some interesting action steps forward that we thought it was a good opportunity at this point in time to start sharing with important stakeholders in the community to see, does this feel right when you hear about it? Do you think we're on the right track? What advice or feedback could you provide to sort of shape it? So I'll let my colleagues kind of tell the full story, but just wanted to welcome Helen Coffin, CPPED, who is kind of hosting our stakeholder group under the auspices of the Regional Economic Development Organization, and then Pace Lochte with UVA, Deborah Van Ursel with the UVA Foundation, Nikki Hastings with CEVO BioHub, and Rebecca Ivins, who wears so many hats, but primarily for this purpose, the Defense Affairs Committee Chair for this year. And I'm just gonna turn it over to them to share some of the work that we've been doing.
Great. Am I supposed to be pointing this somewhere?
It got turned off as long.
Is it on?
We may have turned it off already.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just not working.
Does it need
Yes,
battery?
please.
Yeah.
Great. Should we give up on this or?
No, it works now.
It works now. Okay.
Good job.
That was magic. All right. Well, thanks so much for having us here. We have a pretty brief presentation and we'd love to save some time at the end for questions and discussion, as Emily said. So we're here because we're among many people who believe that having a bigger and bolder vision for our region is really important for thinking about where we go next with our regional economy. We're calling this the Central Virginia Innovation Corridor, and we believe that we are poised to be the next national hub for innovation in biotech, digital technologies, and national security. And we feel like the missing link to really realizing this potential is a vision for the future. We would like to do that to make sure we keep talent here and that we really unlock all the economic potential that seems to be growing. We are a region on the verge, but we do have some critical gaps in our region. And if we don't address these, again, we could be losing momentum and talent. So one of the current challenges is that innovative companies and talent often leave for larger metro areas. Emily has some statistics about the missing middle of demographics. So 25 to 54-year-olds tend not to stay here. And largely that could be because we don't have interesting places for them to work. We have great places to work, but the private sector jobs are limited. About half of our jobs are in education, government, healthcare, tourism, not traded sector jobs. Capital investment is happening, but it's fragmented. And really the lack of a real regional strategy that is unified is really hindering the growth of some of these emerging technologies. And one might ask, why now? So I think, as Emily said, there's been some pretty monumental investments in our area, both public and private sector, in the national defense and life science and digital realm. We've got a lot of resources flowing into the region from all areas. And we will be missing opportunities if we can't come up with a better regional vision for the area. Our message generally is that we do have a lot of capital flowing into this region in those areas that we talked about. I think we are looking for where's our unique position within this new economic order and how do we meet the moment and really kind of spark new areas of exploration. And with the ultimate goal of finding a line of sight to new economic growth opportunities. Right now, we are great at responding to requests for information. We answer the phone when people call, when there's site selectors, there's a lot of proactive activity going out to site selectors. Helen's doing trade missions all the time, including this week, next week. And that's great, but I think there's an opportunity for us to be a little bit more future thinking and forward looking and thinking about what's around the corner and what might we not be seeing currently.
So when you think about confluence, or we call it convergence, we talk about like the things that are happening around us. And though I use Emily's expression from the other day, though $270 million in investments and 400 jobs might not seem like a big deal outside of our area and in other parts of the Commonwealth, is a big deal here in Charlottesville. We have great research that has come our direction. Manning Institute is getting stood up. The new National Security and Data Policy Institute stood up. You all bought land at Rivanna Station to secure that area. North Fork is across the street with many acres available and new residential zoning to help with the talent on the other side of affordable housing. We've got business attraction opportunities coming up. You just saw the Afton Scientific Group that's expanding. MITRE established a drone facility out in Orange County. They couldn't do it at North Fork because it was so proximal to the airport because they are located in the park. But that gives you an example of how important having regional assets are to keep them here. And Data Shapes, a new company, is here, came all the way from Silicon Valley and is bringing other people here because of our climate and our opportunities. Of course, workforce is a really big concern for us as it relates to PVCC. Germanna College also BioBridge, the career pathways that the high schools are doing. And of course, all of the innovation work that's coming out of the university, out of BioHub and all of the other Venture Central. And just all of this coming together is what we're calling our confluence or convergence of assets. And all that since 2023. We have been talking a lot about regional transformation. Other areas have done it, and we think we're in a unique position to be able to do that as well. Richmond and Petersburg have become sort of a hub for advanced pharmaceuticals. They had a $50+ million investment there recently. Hampton Roads in Richmond, their digital and national security hub, given the fiber that comes in underwater and through the Atlantic and up through the United States, right through the Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area. We think we have 3 areas and industries that kind of converge into one, and that maybe makes us special. It's going to present opportunities that maybe we would like to leverage and build on. Obviously, we think we're uniquely positioned. We are close to DC. It's an easy drive. We're both close to it and far enough away from it, as I know you all are very familiar with, having purchased land at Rivanna Station. We have the federal agencies coming down, and if you sit at North Fork, you can see the planes coming and going. They're doing their flybys and dropping people off at Rivanna Station, so lots of things are going on there. We're outside of the blast zone, so that's a good thing. We have a great workforce. We're highly educated. It's future ready. We've got people coming out of the UVA, out of our high schools, in the learning labs. Unfortunately, they tend to move on because we don't have enough created sectors here. We'd like to keep them here. Pipeline through the university is very strong, and particularly in the defense area where we're getting their security clearances earlier. But we think that's very strong. And obviously, we all talk about how great Charlottesville is, and our region is as a place to live. High quality of life where people want to be. I think COVID was the perfect example of that. People could work anywhere, and they came to Charlottesville to do that, where they could work remotely. And I think we are more cost effective. If you look at office space and such in the DC area, it's way more expensive than even coming down here. As expensive as people think it is here, it's not nearly as expensive as there. And I think the last slide here that I'm covering is one that Emily normally covers in our presentation, and you probably are far more aware of this than most counties, which is that the intelligence or national security assets we have here are pretty extraordinary. So you all are intimately familiar with Rivanna Station and the importance of that, and your actions there have been really critical and play a big part in our vision for what the future can be. The National Security Data and Policy Institute, they've just opened up with the Office of Director of National Intelligence, working with our academia, not just on national security, but there is a biotech also element related to that. There are partnerships with the Data Sciences Institute, the School of Public Policy, and AI and machine learning, cybersecurity, and biotech in our community. So all these things are really important. And the ecosystem kind of speaks for itself. We kind of all know it. We've talked a little bit about these things, but one thing that we know recently happened is Greene County has designated about 500 acres just north of Route 33 for defense-related, industrial, research-related elements. So they are anxious to be involved, and they represent this whole industry really, or sector represents about $1.2 billion in annual impact. And you know this from the economic impact study we did under the DAC years ago. So all this is very exciting, and we think is very conducive to being able to leverage our situation.
Thank you, and it's wonderful to see everybody giving you some updates on the projects that we've been talking about supporting on the biotech side. Where this gets exciting for us is thinking about some of the questions we've talked about is if we have infrastructure for early stage innovative technologies, how do we ensure that we have enough volume always coming in, new ideas flowing through the region and enough there that we can support it with the infrastructure and that it's sustainable. The idea to bring intelligence and this convergence of sectors together with the biotech sector is truly exciting because I think it gets us to that sustainability question a lot faster. So just a reminder of some of the things that have been going on the life sciences side. $90 million was invested by the governor, about a year and a half ago into the research triangle, supporting research innovation that could be commercialized, the establishment of the Manning Institute, as was mentioned, and many other activities are happening across the state, but where the governor's office has really looked to Charlottesville as a leader of this sector and the pinnacle of the triangle, ultimately carrying the innovation forward that can then lead to more growth across the state. So we're talking about this end-to-end strategy of you have the research happening here, you commercialize the technology, you're manufacturing it in Virginia and finding those assets through a wide connected network. So that's happening on the biotech side. You've all supported the Life Sciences Accelerator. We're so thankful and we're very excited to be officially launching and having our ribbon cutting event next week. If you haven't and are interested to join us, we invite you, and Emily can let us know if you'd like to attend. We'll get you on that list. Invites are still going out, but we already have 6 companies ready to join us in this facility. And we have always said there's such pent up demand for this type of infrastructure. And with just a little bit, we can do a lot to attract people to this asset. We're starting to have conversations attracting companies to this region. These are not 100+ employee type of jobs and opportunities. They're small, emerging life sciences technologies and companies. But the one example is a company is currently in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They're doing clinical work at UVA Health, and they haven't decided where to establish their company. Knowing that an asset like this exists is giving them a thought that we've never been able to pose to them, is have you considered moving your company here to Virginia? So we're just starting to get some of this data and feedback on the support you've given to the accelerator, but we're super excited to be launching this and thinking about it as part of a vision of something that's even greater. And pass this on.
Sure.
Rebecca.
So some of this we've already touched on. You know, it's funny. We've been talking a lot about assets and what makes us unique here, what our opportunity is. And so this slide really is just meant to talk about that we've got the foundational ability to support some of the assets that we've been talking about, which is actually really exciting. And I'll move us on. So one of the things that can be either a success of or an impediment to site selection and opportunity is workforce and jobs. And you guys already know that. And so another reason why we are excited about and motivated by what we're doing is that we've got thousands of students graduating every year from PVCC and UVA. We've got other community colleges in the area as well in our region, Germanna, et cetera, but VCCS for sure. Deb or Pace actually touched on BioBridge earlier. That's a new initiative that was kicked off, which is really a planning study that's going to happen between K through 12, the community colleges, and then private sector to really understand how to create pathways for jobs to keep our people here, which is exciting. Technical training. So we touched on the high school career pathways, which is really exciting. And then, automation and AI are going to reshape the job industry. And so having the collaboration with Gene Runyon and the PVCC Bullock Center for Next Generation Workforce Training is incredibly important as well. And all of this is meant, and the presentation that we're talking about is we're looking for ways to unify a vision so that we don't have really successful silos, but we've got an incredibly successful core of collaboration and sort of genius happening for our region. And then I can't remember who it goes to.
So the kind of so what and what's next? We really feel like we have an opportunity here, but we don't have enough yet to figure out what it is. So we've had a lot of studies. We've got the Go Virginia Region 9 growth study. We've got economic development plans. We've got all kinds of information, but it's really just that. It's information, and it's really kind of at a level that's not quite deep enough. And so what we are proposing is to hire a consultant. Specifically, we're looking at Techonomy Consultants, and actually Emily pointed us to them. They did a similar study for St. Louis around geospatial studies called the GeoFutures. And what they really do is they look at kind of what do we have in our region, what technology assets, what infrastructure, what are we putting out there? What are we pushing out there? What is the market interested in? So the pull piece of that, and where those overlap, they're finding line of sight to economic growth opportunities that will really help us understand where to go next. And so I think the reason it's appealing to have a consultant like Teconomy is because they do this work all over the country. They even work internationally. So having somebody that can look at the data and provide us with insights, help us understand where we fit in this new economic order. Like, we can say, oh yeah, we're big in biotech and national security, but are we really, like, what does that really mean? Those are really big fields. So we need them to help us understand exactly where we can position ourselves to be really a compelling value proposition. We know where to invest our energy, our marketing, our outreach, our infrastructure pieces, and then really kind of go from there. So that's an important next step, we feel like, in this journey. And the same desired outcomes every economic development partner would like to see. You know, we mentioned more traded sector industries. We'd like to see more mid-career options for our residents. We'd like to see more business creation, attraction, and expansion. We're already being recognized as an innovation hub by the governor. We'd love it if more, even outside of Virginia, we were recognized as such. And really just having a shared vision for this technology-driven future. And I'll mention that where this sits right now is under the CVPED, Central Virginia Partnership for Economic Development. So Helen has welcomed us with open arms. Helen, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, we're just very excited, as the Regional Economic Development Group, 8 counties plus the city of Charlottesville. So for those of you who don't know, from Nelson County up to Culpeper and then over to Louisa, Fluvanna, Orange, and everything in between. We're really excited about this, really appreciate the efforts, especially that Emily and others have, focused on Albemarle County, but frankly, being very generous and broader thinking and saying, hey, let's do this at the Go Virginia Region 9 level, which is my region, plus Rappahannock and Fauquier counties, and really be sure that whatever story we tell is taking advantage of everything possible to differentiate ourselves and show what our strengths really are. We really want to turn over all the rocks and make sure we know what all of our assets are and have a better understanding of what can we say about our region, about Charlottesville, Albemarle, that is different than what folks say all across the country. So I think CVPED's very excited. Our executive committee has embraced this, and we're looking forward to a similar presentation at our March 7th board meeting. So our board members have the opportunity, like you, to give input and help shape this. But I think having a consulting firm just makes sense. We all think we know a lot, but having professionals, they've already started asking us questions, okay, we need to do a little bit of thinking about that. So looking forward to it.
So we would just love sort of some of your thoughts, your feedback. How can we make this better? How can we make it more clear? Just interested in any feedback you all would like to provide.
You have anything else you want to add?
Yeah.
Can I ask one question first? Traded sector, what does that term mean? Is that just private companies? Is that, or is it bigger than that?
That on
Do you want me to answer it or you want to answer it?
Well, I'll let the expert answer. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
basically, Go Virginia is a great example. It focuses on the traded sector. So those are basically companies that are producing goods and services and selling them outside Virginia. So it could even be a law firm as long as their clients were national and international, not just in Virginia.
Okay.
It's easier to picture manufacturing where they're making goods here but selling them elsewhere. So the revenue comes back to Virginia and to Central Virginia and Albemarle County, but it is not just being circulated within the local economy like hospitality and
Local
healthcare.
store,
Mhm.
whatever.
Right.
Okay. Here's another term for that. If I remember.
And JT has a really good video, if you ever want to see it.
What
He
is
has a good video on this
A
concept.
primary
Right.
Okay, that's what I remember from like.
versus a consumptive.
Gotcha.
Primary. is-
Okay,
is a
all right.
cute
Well, that was
video.
different than what I thought. I'm glad I asked.
JT, you should share the video. And they use the word primary versus traded sector.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you saw it.
Yeah, no problem. So ultimately, what is your goal? So the consultant comes in, they do the thing, then what? Like, what do you,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really gonna help.
tangible results?
It's gonna really inform sort of the business strategy, so it's gonna inform everything. So already Gene Runyon, the president of Piedmont Virginia Community College, is already really excited about working with the other community colleges in the region to think about how to assemble their workforce training programs. Like if they have something a little bit more specific to target their workforce training around, it makes their lives easier. Same with site development. You know, if we have a better sense of what types of companies we're going after that would be attractive to us and for us, that helps with site selection. So it really sort of helps inform everything. And I think just really having this regional vision is what we've been lacking. We've had people from other parts of the state say they're shocked that we don't have a regional vision for economic development here. And I think one of the big changes, honestly, is Albemarle County getting into the game. I mean, the fact that Albemarle County bought 462 acres around Ravenna Station is huge. And it really sends a signal to everybody, including everybody at this table, that, hey, we can actually do this. You know, Albemarle's open for business, smart growth, smart investment. But it's not something to be sort of like, we don't want to talk about that. So it's really kind of opened the door, and I really applaud you all for really being leaders in that area, because we've had a reputation across the Commonwealth. Helen hosted a meeting yesterday for the Secretary of Commerce and Trade in Virginia and her deputy. And they were really quite delighted to hear, because, you know, they've got sort of the 5-year-old version of our region that we're not interested, we're kind of comfortable, we don't really need much. So I think it's an important turn of events.
One of the values of, when you think about building a strong, we talk about ecosystems and economic development, is that you can really, it has to be deeper than just a marketing. So we could just say we're the biotech hub of Virginia, and we could go out and tell people that, and they might listen to us. But once they started to dig into, well, what are your workforce training opportunities, and what are the skills of the workers in your sort of commute shed, and you know, is there a place, like, I understand there's a place that I can do a startup that has 2 or 3 employees, but what does your building stock and site availability look like for when we're ready to get to the next stage? And what does your access to capital look like? And when people start digging into that, if it's just a marketing effort, they're going to find that they have a lot of questions left unanswered. I think the benefit of the roadmap that we're trying to build would be that we can really hone in on what are our real strategic, what part of biotech? Biotech is a very broad sector. What part of biotech do we have a strategic advantage in? And then how can we build supply chains around the areas that we have a strong opportunities? And do we have the right building stock for that? And do we have the right workforce training programs to be able to continue to sort of build that ecosystem around the assets that we currently have? And so it's really going to give us, I think, a true literal roadmap of how can we work together to build this case that in these areas, we're the best place for you to start and grow your business. And you can start in the city of Charlottesville. You can grow in Albemarle County. If you're too close to the airport, you can have satellite facilities in some of the outerlying counties. And all of those are wins for all of us, because we're kind of continuing to build this ecosystem.
Yeah, and I just want to add that I think it should inform strategies across the entire region. So where even if, as the EDA is putting together a strategic plan for the county, you can be asking questions of how is the strategic plan and asks that are coming into the EDA aligned with both your own strategic plan, but also this regional vision. And so it should help improve decision-making so that we're all working towards a unified goal. And that's what I think we're all excited about, is being able to say there are amazing assets here and we have been working in silos. So let's bring it all together and tell a great story. I think there's an implementation opportunity and follow-on grant from understanding the study, but I don't think that it's a huge cost center requirement to then build momentum with each group that is participating. It's just, are you working within this strategic vision?
That was the only thing I would add, is that the idea of a planning grant, especially one that's funded by Go Virginia, assuming we go that way, is that you're going to come up with action steps that then potentially you can get an implementation grant from Go Virginia to do a few of the things. My guess is some of the action items won't be fundable by Go Virginia, but some will. And so it also gives you that clarity. Okay, here are the 6 to 8 key steps we should take, or next action items, who does what, and they will recommend some of that, but who does what, and then what funding streams do we have for these various things? And we'll just all be on the same page a lot more.
You've definitely done well in that area, so.
I'll mention too that, there are some pretty historic investments by the federal government across the US, these Build Back Better, the innovation engines, innovation hubs, technology hubs. We didn't get any of that money here. And part of it was because we didn't have a regional story to tell. Richmond Petersburg, as Deborah said, they got $55 million for advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing. Central Florida got $65 million for semiconductors. Upstate New York got $65 million for energy storage batteries. Birmingham, Alabama got $44 million for AI and therapeutic development. So they were all opportunity ready. We may never see those historic investments again, but man, shame on us if we can't get our act together and build a story and come up with a regional approach for whatever is next.
And part of that was we didn't have the comprehensive economic development strategy or SEDS in place. And so we weren't able to take advantage of some of the federal funding opportunities like we could now because we have that. And this innovation corridor idea is something that was recommended in the SEDS. So we're teed up to look at federal funding opportunities much better than we have been.
Yeah, just a question, maybe this is a question for the county team and the board. What's our experience, because I haven't been on the board long enough to know when we make these investments in studies and we get a report, what's our track record on getting our bang for the buck out of the money we spend? Because I'm imagining the report will be very well done, thoughtful, practical, but can we do anything? Well, we will spend a lot of money. Maybe some of the states, all the different funding sources. What will we get out of it? I guess. Has anyone been around long enough to comment?
Well, BioAccelerator is a great example.
Yeah.
Well, I should let the BioAccelerator.
I would say that the investments from the EDA historically have come in increments showing proof of concept and we would come back and share milestone updates and continue to receive opportunities for growth. And I can say that the small investments over a period of time are leading to some really massive potential outcomes that I don't think in one fell swoop would have been a great way to get started. I think this is an exciting way to get started where we don't even really know what the great big potential and outcomes can be, but we're also starting to leverage the successes that are here, the assets that are here. And so I think the story is resonating from the stakeholders who have been actively working intentionally to have an impact, and that similar to the opportunities that are being presented to us with the accelerator, where we're now going in front of the state for funding for the follow-on long-term facility to run this. We wouldn't be able to get those opportunities without support from the locality. It's actually critical to the story of the questions that will come at the federal level. Well, is the locality participating? Is there opportunity there collaboratively? And I think with Emily at the table, it is the game-changing opportunity for her to know, but also be invested in the outcomes for this. So I see that as kind of a game-changing part of this conversation. She's right there with us building this and also owning the Ravenna's futures.
Nikki, do you remember how much Almar County gave to the first CEVO Biolab planning grant that was $100,000?
I remember the first pitch very clearly. I think JT, you might have been there.
Do you remember how much?
It was $25,000.
So your $25,000 initial seed is now an $8 million bioaccelerator that you gave a very small percentage to.
Leading to a $20 million investment from the University of Virginia and the state that is in front of us right now. So
Pretty good.
And I think the other piece of it, not so much about history, but I think, we've also got staff capacity that we didn't used to have. I mean, since I've been on the Economic Development Authority, we've gone from not having anyone in an economic development department to having a single person to having the staff. And so I think one of the problems with these reports is you get a report, but if you don't have people who are there, who are looking at the report, who are saying, hey, what are the things we need to do? For example, we're about to have a firm retreat and I got our planning thing from 2016 that we did. I was like, wow, we did all these things. I wonder if we ever did any of this stuff. So, I mean, that's the problem. Somebody's got to be looking at it. And we now have people who that's their job and who can focus on it, because it's hard for us to do that. So I think that's a big difference between where we were and Emily's involved with this group who's got people in various areas who've got the capacity. And I think that's an important part to allow us to be successful.
I think the only thing I would add, and if Shannon wants to say anything, I'm sure she'll pop up. But Go Virginia is really structured around this idea of regionalism and regional collaboration. And so, the county's putting in a cash contribution. Often so is the city of Charlottesville, Greene County, some of our academic partners, and then unlocking state dollars. So it really de-risks the effort to even begin that planning exploration. And the structure of Go Virginia is really wonderful. It really orients you towards this, towards an action plan that again could be fundable by Go Virginia, could be fundable by other entities. Maybe at the end, you have a couple of recommendations that everyone says, we're just not sure the time is right for these at this point. But it kind of de-risks the exploration work by bringing different stakeholders together to help be funding partners and seeing something through.
I just would add one last thing, and I like two things. Or no, it'll be five things, but two things. One, I've been with the UVA Foundation for almost 24 years and working on North Fork as a project. And until very recently, until you all purchased land across the street, it was been very hard to imagine how the county and we could work on creating something really interesting at North Fork. The university invested a lot of money in it. We still need to figure out what university is really good at sometimes, but having a willing economic development partner where the land is situated is really important. And having partnered on the VBRSP grant to help us get a site ready was huge. And so I want to just commend you, like Pace did. It was an incredible game changer for us. And we are working very closely together, and I get goosebumps thinking about it, because for the longest time, we just didn't have that partnership. And I, for the first time, really see an opportunity. And, I could be here saying, I can't believe you bought 462 acres across the street when we've had this thing going on already for 30 years. I see it as an opportunity to leverage both sites. And Alan, if he was here, would say, listen, 3 sites, 1,500 acres of site opportunity for something that could happen here. The other thing I think is really important is that we are fortunate to have the University of Virginia here. I think we can walk there from here. Most communities do not have that kind of firepower, intellectual property. And that, coupled with a desire and what you call an embarrassment of riches in a community, we should be leading the way. We should be that thought leader. And for the first time, I feel like we're on that road. And our interest here as a team is to say, okay, well, let's seize the moment. We have all these great things happening here. How can we bring them together and leverage that for something? And I want to just reiterate that this is for the long term, and this is not going to happen tomorrow. We are working on probably at least a 5-year plan to get sort of our ducks in a row, to understand everything that we have, the gaps, working towards some things to solve for those gaps, and then seeing that momentum really pick up, right? So as things come along in the near term, because we have sort of our talking points and a vision starting to create, that will help, that will build some more momentum. And then as your land comes available and more work happens there, there'll be more of that follows. And then the work of the surrounding counties, the city, as they continue to grow, that will again just add to this momentum that's happening here. And I don't want to speak for my partners on this, but I think that's what excites us all about being involved in this work. And we have put a lot of time and energy into this and see a real path forward. I'm excited about this line of sight concept, to the future. It feels like that's like a laser beam. And I'm excited to sort of follow that laser beam and see what this community could be like. I remember coming here in 1988 and literally thinking I was going to have to be a bartender or a waitress because there were no jobs outside of the university, and lots has changed since then, but we we have a ways to go, and that's the future of, like, my daughter's 31 and can't live here. Why? I don't have a job. So that's the future I'm hoping that we help to create for others that are young here with young children, who want their kids to be able to work here and have nice lives here. So that's our vision for this shared ecosystem that we might think will profit everybody in the long term.
And a couple of things, and you've really talked a lot about the strengths and the opportunities here, but we also know that there are weaknesses and there are threats here. You talked about the fact that we couldn't get, or we didn't get federal funding in a level. And that's in part not because of our senators who are very receptive, but for the last, he's no longer in office, or the congressman who's been in office the last couple of terms, had no interest in helping this community, to be honest. He did not. He stood on in the well of the House saying, it was not my job to bring money back to my district. It was my job to cut the fat and those types of things. And that's been difficult. And you all at the university probably know that better than most. And so with a new presidential administration, we certainly don't know what a lot of this is going to look like as well. Having said that, we can plan and we can look elsewhere. We can look to Richmond. We can look to the private sector. And I like that. And I think it's the other role is going to be for the board in parallel as we are a community coming up with our comprehensive plan. What does the growth area look like? What do our densities look like? You're 31, a 31-year-old woman can't afford a house here. So what do we have to do as a community to encourage development at a level that's appropriate for the community, but finds those starter homes? When you said the words missing middle earlier, I didn't go to jobs immediately. I went to housing immediately because in Albemarle, it's an issue. And
You're not alone in that. We hear a lot of people share that
right,
same
it's
concern.
And we see it on, it depends on the areas of the county you're in. Where I live, it's the Albemarle Business Campus, which is shifting away from the business piece and looking for more housing. It's Brookwood that wants more housing. It's North Point that's probably gonna want more housing. I also serve with the county's schools long-range planning advisory committee, and we're starting to do things too, right? We're finally, after 25 years, building a new elementary school, first new school in Albemarle County in 25 years. And we're gonna open, we have a groundbreaking, I think the same day as your groundbreaking for Center 2, for the new high school center over off of Lambs Lane. And so the county's gonna have a role to play here, and it's been a hard, you're very aware of the tension between, how do we keep Albemarle this place that everybody wants to come to, as you mentioned during COVID, they came here because of everything we have to offer, but have that infrastructure in place, whether it's affordable, not affordable housing, but housing that is affordable to somebody. These are good ladder jobs that we're talking about, but they're not all going to be able to afford housing in the community locally. And we can work regionally, we can work with Green on housing in some regards, but we want to make sure that they can live where they want to live too. And
This is
so,
where doing studies and having the correct data and then having that regional collaboration and going around and making sure we're having conversations and buy-in from all of the right, not only stakeholders, but, folks that are, have a vested interest in the housing conversation or in the K through 12 conversation. And so there's a lot of players at the table. We want to make sure what we're doing is keeping our eye on this, the results of the study that are going to come, and then having the right information sessions and talking with the right groups so that we don't, one person can't do it all, no one can boil the ocean, but together there's a lot we can accomplish for this area. So it'll be the right people at the table having those conversations for sure.
And then you can share that same report to all those developers and school districts, and everybody's gonna understand the vision. Yeah.
but I do think it's going to take a political will that hasn't always been demonstrated here. And I think it's it's exciting. It's very exciting. And having a partner like UVA, which hasn't, as you said, had only, I started as a student in 1987. I came back in 2002 and ran the athletic compliance office there for a couple of years. So I understand sort of the dynamic of the university from 20 years ago. I understood that dynamic. But people on the inside tell me it hasn't.
Ideally, we would, to Rebecca's point, you know, we're starting small, making presentations, getting information or gathering information from experts in certain fields to help us sort of shape this. At the end of the day, we will share it out many ways. It'll get like a ripple effect, right? Our hope is that everyone who sees it somehow sees themselves in this vision. And, or we get the benefit of the thinking of these different groups to see themselves in this vision. And what I want to be clear, none of us are here saying, we want to grow this place, it's going to be huge. We don't have any numbers. What we're saying is, what are we really good at? What's smart to lean into? How do we create more opportunity and regional vitality, economic vitality for those who want to be here? And do it smartly. Nobody wants to do stupid things. And how do we do that with knowledge and with buy-in from people? So again, it's not a short-term thing, right? Anytime you are talking about change, it's a long-term process, but I think we can stay focused and we can keep a dialogue open, like getting to the board, your point about politics, you know, how do we keep that dialogue open and solve for some of the contentious issues and assure people that we're not trying to turn things upside down, because none of us want to lose this. We might need to lose a little to gain more, but we want overall for our community to be a wonderful place to live. And but like for everyone who's here, not just a few.
One more quick question. Have there been any other regions in Virginia who've done a similar study?
Yeah, we talked to Hampton Roads fairly recently about the work that they've done. We're talking with these gentleman called Bruce Katz out of Philadelphia. And so we're,
Doing the same thing right now, the brick.
I'm sorry,
Danville's doing the same thing. right now,
Danville,
the brick.
yeah, so we're not alone.
And a follow-up to that, what are the results of those?
Well, I
You
think,
got a study.
yeah, Hampton Roads has got a really amazing strategic plan. You know, they realize they have these subsea cables coming in. They've really well positioned to be kind of a global internet hub. And they've got, you know, I don't know how many localities involved. I mean, what they've done to get everybody rowing in the same direction is quite amazing.
And it started with a study.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to know what you've got when you're sitting in the middle of it.
No, and then Danville, are they?
Danville is killing it.
Yeah.
They are really changing from a
They've
textile
transformed
based
their whole
industry.
downtown.
Yeah.
But RVA 757, they came together and if any of you have driven to Virginia Beach in the last, I mean, the lane widening on 64 between Richmond and Williamsburg was an effort that came out of that. So actionable, successful things.
And I just put a fine point on it. Pace mentioned it earlier. It's like, we think we know what we do well. But it's helpful to have someone on the outside tell us, well, you do that well now and that's important now, but in 5 years from now, this is what you need. If you're gonna take this thing that you're really good at and move it to here so you're still good or doing that well, or you need to drop this because nobody's gonna care in 5 years. This is where you really need to be. So it's that global perspective. What do we have now that's valuable in the future? And what do we have to do in order to be more valuable in the future? And which is someone who has a global perspective as opposed to our regional sort of insular perspective. You know, we think we know we're good at things, but we'd like to have that additional knowledge that we wouldn't normally go fishing for. And that's what the study will tell us, hopefully, and then we'll know. I used it the other day. Wayne Gretzky says, skate to where the puck's gonna be. And that's kind of what this is about, is like, where are we going? Where do we want to go? And what's the best way to get there?
Thank you.
I'm gonna weigh in on the political side, unfortunately, because I like the whole idea, I like the concept and everything. It's for the board to decide. But if that study does come to fruition, would they also take into account what's happening politically in the county? We have a large constituency
rural versus development area. We have people who do not want change. They do not want these, you know, biotech, everything growing, because then they say, well, that means more people, that means more traffic. Our biggest complaints is supervisors, traffic concerns, transportation concerns, those are huge. And then also affordability of homes.
Well, I think what we can do is bring you the information and then you all have to decide what to do with it,
Yeah,
right?
no, I realize that. I'm just wondering if they would take that into account, because it's a big thing for us. We only approve about 58% of the affordable in the development of the affordable homes we could, because we get so much pushback. So
It'd be something we definitely would share with them as we
Okay.
talk to them about, you know, the
Good.
unique variations in the region, because you've got other places where they don't have that same sentiment, so they understand that we have a region with varied political interests.
Okay, good. Thank
One
you.
of the, I think that just, I know we gotta go, like,
We'll make sure.
one would hope that with the right kind of growth, right, and commercial industrial tax revenues, we will afford some of those things that people are worried about having to pay for. Right, so, and they'd be part of the solution as to just making a problem. So, and that's about educating people, like, if we do this, we ought to be able to model what it would mean. What are the benefits of, and then cost benefit analysis, right? That should be part of the process.
Yeah, I think the roadmap would have both the data driven elements,
Right.
but also with the local flavor sort of mixed in. And I think one of the wonderful opportunities working with North Fork and the property that they have there, that's sort of ready site, is we can have conversations about, well, you know, tomorrow it could be this type of a last mile warehouse type use. Or we could say, maybe that's not the best fit for this community. And how do we market that site in a way that's gonna get the right kind of return on investment for us? And so those are conversations that a roadmap can put us in a better position. As Nikki said earlier, it's about giving us better tools for decision making. And so with the land that we have available, what's gonna be the best fit, the best opportunity, so that we don't accidentally make a decision today that's gonna hurt us 5 years from now.
I agree, and I think the whole North Fork, Bribana Station, what you all are doing, that's a game changer for this county, and I think it's fantastic. My 2 cents.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and thank you for having us.
All right, anything
All
else?
right.
Thank you all for coming, appreciate it.
That's not your apprehension. That's good to see you. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Really appreciate it.
The other thing is. the consultants
You know, I'm waiting to see about the wine industry. Bring the wine industry down to. Doing it all. We should get together and let these smiles sit down. Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get going and jump back into item 5A, the wine industry implementation grant request. So at the last meeting, we had the presentation about the grant. There was a request for some additional information, which we had provided to us. Anything else that you would like to add, Emily, to the request? Do you find the information helpful?
Yeah, I think the application materials that were loaded through the Go Virginia state process had a lot of the details of what this grant is trying to achieve, implementation grant is trying to achieve, and how they're taking sort of the findings from that planning effort that was done this past year and turn it into some real forward movement. The real benefits of the program as proposed are really great for our region. They're trying to take some of the existing capacity that our wineries across the region have to produce more wine and help create some more market opportunities for them to sell it. So it's using sort of existing infrastructure and capacity and just trying to really focus it. Huge opportunity for our region and the Commonwealth as across the board. And so I think the application did a wonderful job sort of spelling that out. And so we wanted to bring it back before you all for consideration of action today.
Any questions from anybody?
No, just one comment. I think the wine region is really, when they talk about even, having people want to come to our region, there's such a residual effect for any investment in this sector that it really, it ripples very strong. To me, I think any investment to help these, winemakers and things like that prosper, I think we only benefits the region.
Yeah, and I mean, my view is with the level of the wine making and grape growing in Albemarle County, I mean, this is very reasonable investments, as we know that, now that we've seen that there's a framework for how it's gonna be used. I think it's well worth the requested amount.
I appreciate you providing that. Whoever put that together was a nice packet. Thank you.
If there are no further questions or comments, I think there's a resolution. Is there not? There's a resolution. To make a motion?
I'll motion. I move that the EDA adopt this resolution appropriating $20,000 to the County of Nelson as the lead applicant for a match to the implementation grant for Go Virginia Region 9, subject to the terms of the resolution and the terms of the Go Virginia Grant Guidelines and Agreement, and to authorize the authority's chair and treasurer to execute all documents necessary to complete this match grant.
Is there a second? Second. All right, is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, no nays. So the motion is approved. All right. Next is the memorandum of understanding. As we mentioned at the last meeting, we'd had the presentation, the meeting with the Board of Supervisors. We went over the term sheet that we had put together. We then, Ricky Deloria took the information from that and put together this memorandum of understanding. Richie, Emily, and I met, talked through a couple of little minor things. The language in here is largely the language that was in the letter of intent, the sort of substantive points. The one thing that was discussed more than anything else when we met with the Board of Supervisors is the fee questions. And that is in
Near the end.
it's very. Oh, yeah, here it is. Top of page 3, section 2C. Fiscal services agreement where the EDA will allow the county an administrative management and accounting fee of 1% of all the funds it receives, such fee not to exceed $20,000 in a given year. The concern was that, there's a cost to the county to administer fees as it flows through. Flip side concern was, well, if a lot of money is just flowing through, those fees could get really high. So we decided to just put a cap in there to cover the situation with the dollar volume. I think right now the fee would be, we ought to be able to figure it out. I can't remember. It was like $3,000.
It's
Based
far
on
below
what we're currently
20,000.
doing. So there's a lot of room to grow, and I think that's reasonable. So that's really the only thing changed. Any questions or comments on the MOU? What we've got a resolution. The next step would be for if the EDA approves of what we've got, would be to take it to the Board of Supervisors for them to review and decide if they were comfortable. So I don't know, does anybody?
The only question I had was about the targeted industries piece and making sure that I understood where that language was. We were defining it in the comprehensive plan. We weren't defining it in the economic development strategic plan. I just want to make sure that I'm misunderstanding where that term would come from. I wasn't certain it was a comprehensive plan term.
Specific portion? Yeah, it's 2A.
Yeah.
One, business attraction with emphasis on
Okay.
identified targeted industries. I think that with a, so.
Later, I think, and I didn't bring my copy, I apologize, on my phone, or read over something. When we get down to the term target industry, 3B. Be interpreted consistent with the definition or description contained in the comprehensive plan. Or within the context of the county's zoning or other applicable ordinances. To that. 3B. 3B, I just want to make sure that we meant that location.
No, that's a great
I think it's really that's a strategic
strategic
plan.
plan item.
Yeah, it should be a strategic plan.
The draft chapter for thriving economy for the comprehensive plan that's currently in final review will mostly point to the current economic development strategic plan. But in that regard, we may have a sort of a cyclical reference. I wonder if should we change that to economic development strategic plan?
Well, I wonder if we should add that. I mean, I guess the worry was that that we have a target industry, whatever that is. I don't know what it would be, but that somehow by pursuing that, we're putting a targeted industry in a place that's inconsistent with the comprehensive plan or zoning. So I must read that as more being a physical type thing, but so I wouldn't want to strike, wouldn't want to strike. I guess the idea is so we get some type of biotech company, we want to put it where the comprehensive plan says a park should be.
Right, no, that part I got, but I guess it was sort of the defining of targeted
Yeah.
industry,
Within the county's comprehensive plan.
right?
Yeah, I mean,
Right, so we have to define what those targeted industries are, and I thought we were doing that in the economic development strategic plan.
that's right.
I don't know, I mean, we may also do it in the comprehensive plan. I apologize, I am not up on my AC 44 reading. I've fallen behind in
Neither
the
is
syllabus.
anyone
Well,
else.
I think, and just so I remember, this sort of came out of, I think originally we had language that says that business attraction would focus on targeted industry. I can't remember the exact language. And one of the things that several members of the board of supervisors said is they wanted us to get to be broader. We wanted to say, okay, we want to encourage the targeted industry.
Right.
Sure. And I agree with you that I think it's targeted industries should be coming out of the economic development plan, because it's,
Right, and I guess
national
also,
security.
yeah,
or
all
whatever.
I was saying was to make sure that we had the definition coming in the right
Yeah.
place. I completely agree with Richie's point about, we don't want to put a business where the zoning doesn't match, or the comprehensive plan doesn't match. I get that, but it just with the definitional piece.
Yeah, I think the 3B should be interpreted consistent with the economic development plan, because is in 2A5, we say that real estate development, building reuse will be in conformity with the comprehensive plan, building reuse, and other county plans and policies. I mean, I don't think that the business attraction really is talking about where it's going to be.
Yeah, I think if 2A sets out the physical conformity with the comprehensive plan. And so target industries, I think, in 3B, we would change to the economic development strategic plan.
At that point, is it becoming redundant? So is the notion to strike B?
I don't think so, because I think that document is likely should define what a targeted industry is.
Right, so I'm reading the term target industry, we interpreted consistent with the definition or description contained within counties, what's the word we use, economic
Economic development.
development
strategic.
office, strategic plan, just economic to, okay. And we're striking the rest of it too?
Yeah.
The zoning stuff
Yeah,
contained within the county's economic development strategic plan.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's a motion to amend the MOU to include that language. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep, yeah, I think that's good. That's a good catch. All right. So, any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion?
I'll move that the authority approve the amended draft memorandum of understanding between the county of Albemarle, Virginia, and this Economic Development Authority of Albemarle County, Virginia, and transmit the same to the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors for consideration. If unchanged by the Board of Supervisors, then the adoption of this motion will constitute the authority's final approval and adoption of the memorandum of understanding and authorization for the chair to sign.
Is there a second? Second. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion, I didn't even ask you if you had anything else to
No,
add to
I-
my description.
I was just gonna
Sorry.
share, I'll put in a request to have this on the board's agenda. We are looking at the second meeting in April. I'll circle back and let you know if that is successful. There's a process to just review that, but, so it would be potentially on a board agenda in April for their consideration.
Thank you, everybody. All right, next, new business, we've already covered item A, so staff report, Emily and JT.
Thank you. I have. So we'll go through some of our standard kind of updates, on Urbana Futures. It's been a busy January, and first part of February have been very busy time. With the focus that we've had on, both work at the General Assembly level for support for this project, as well as it's just the application cycle that we're in for some of the grants that we're pursuing. I hate this picture, but this is me presenting at the General Assembly Military and Veterans Caucus. That's a committee meeting. Trevor Henry's kind of behind me. That's a meeting that the county has presented to for 5 years running, to kind of raise the profile of Ravenna Station. Has always been a very quiet installation in the Commonwealth for lots of reasons. It's also one of the smallest, and so it's easy to sort of overlook when you think about some of the real opportunities that the Commonwealth has in the defense sector. And then as the Ravenna Futures project sort of evolved and grew, we've continued to keep that group up to date on sort of our progress there. There's about 20 folks who serve on that caucus. It is Republicans and Democrats, both senators and members of the House of Delegates participate on that caucus. It's a really great group. It's a really great opportunity to talk to them. They meet sort of before session, and so it's not 3 minutes at the microphone. It's a little bit more of a relaxed setting, and so we're able to kind of get into some details with them. It's been a really nice way to continue to tell the story of what the work that we're doing here and how we're trying to partner with the federal agencies directly, with the state, and some of the work that they've been doing through their Veterans and Defense Affairs Office, as well as the local work on the Ravenna Futures project specifically. So we were excited to have that opportunity again this year, although we're not presently in the General Assembly's budget for line item funding, which was one of the funding paths that we pursued this sort of cycle as part of the county's legislative priority package. The budget's not done yet, but the fact that at this point, this late in the process, that request is no longer sort of in the mix. So we're probably looking at not being successful there this year. And that's okay. We've got 2 other state funding opportunities in place still. Shannon is hanging with us here on behalf of Go Virginia. We've been working to get some really design focused funding from the Go Virginia program. Their process is the regional council approves the application request. Then you have a pitch with the Department of Housing and Community Development staff and members of the State Go Virginia Board. And then there's a state board meeting upcoming on March 11th. And so we've made it through the first 2 gates of that process, and we're looking forward to seeing the outcome of that on March 11th. And really just so much gratitude to Shannon Holland and the work that her team does to help support the application process. You're really not alone, and that's a really nice feeling. And then the Virginia Business Ready Sites Program is the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, the state economic development agencies program to fund site development type work. We have a request into that program for just under $14 million. That funding pool is only $40 million large. And so we think we have a very competitive application. We've heard that so do lots of other localities. They have about $250 million worth of requests in this cycle. And so even I know that math is not great. But we're continuing to work through that process. We've had really wonderful engagement with the EDP, and the next stage in that process is a virtual site visit, so a PowerPoint pitch that will complete in March, and hopefully continue to make good progress in that program. Final funding awards should be out in June. So we'll know a lot more as we get into the summer about what our opportunities to do some pre-development work out there will look like.
I just want to commend Emily and everything she's done on this. She's been up and down Richmond, working this, and as everybody probably knows, the budget process is opaque at best, and it needs, you've got to be out there. You've got to just keep going, and the more you're in front of people, the more likely it is it comes down the road. You don't know when it'll happen, but so I just think we got to keep trying and do the best we can, and we'll eventually we got caught up. You get caught up in the winds of everything else that's happening. So, but I think we're doing the best we can and trying really hard. So I really appreciate all that.
I'll turn it over to JT to talk about our strategic plan.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. I'll spend just a few minutes talking about the latest progress on our strategic plan update. So since the EDA last met on January 21st, there's been a lot of really good progress. I'll kind of work backwards. And so I'll start with last week when we had a ton of snow and our consultants were doing everything they could to get here. They made it, and we had a really packed day and a half of engagement. And that included a meeting that had both Chair Long and Supervisor Lapisa Kirtley at the Bollock Center at PVCC. That's the picture in the top right. That was the second stakeholder committee meeting where our consultants walked through a bit of a SWOT analysis and then also shared some of their preliminary data on how we compare to peer communities across the country. And so that led to a lot of great discussion, some interesting insights and feedback that they're now incorporating on their next stage of data analysis. And so that was just one of, I think, 7 engagements around like a 18-hour period. Just the snow kind of compressed the schedule a little bit. We got them out and gave them a good site tour of our development areas and talked to them. We spent a lot of time at Rivanna Futures. We talked about North Fork and the bio accelerator there. We went out to Crozet. We went down the Broadway corridor. So they got to see a lot of the areas that the EDA has discussed before. For the 2 weeks prior to that, we have staff has been working on an online questionnaire for the community. That's the lower half of this page here is on the county's engagement website. And so for the 2 weeks ahead of that stakeholder committee meeting, we had 1,500 visitors to this page and over 150 people complete an online questionnaire that gave us the community's feedback on these topics. And what was really great to see was, where there was really strong alignment between what the data that the consultants were finding relative to those peer communities around the country and what the actual lived experience of people within our community were. And so those are qualitative in nature mainly, and so staff is still analyzing those, but we will be bringing back to the EDA some of the themes that were discovered in that questionnaire. and ahead of meetings that you will have with the consultant team at the end of March. So we're working to schedule that. They'll bring forward a whole nother round of data analysis at that point, focusing on those target industry clusters. So hopefully we'll get to see more and better understand that.
You tell them you have to use that term, target industry. in your final report.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think it was good progress all around, and we're looking forward to the next steps in the process. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? All right, anything else?
Of course we have.
Oh, all right.
All right, I'm gonna ask Ashley to
Shall I
talk about
come to the
BRE.
table?
Yeah.
So in the business retention and expansion world, we completed 3 biotech BRE engagements along with 1 food and beverage and 2 agribusiness BREs since we met last. And I'm here mainly to give the update about the CEVO BioHub, the second annual Device and Tech Expo that JT and I had the pleasure of attending at the end of the month at CEVO BioHub's new home at North Fork. And it was a really amazing event with a lot of regional and statewide economic development partners, some vendors that deal specifically in the bioscience, life science world. It attracted over 300 attendees, almost 300 attendees, but it was just buzzing when you would walk in. There were just all these people way smarter than most people I know, just in there cranking out these demonstrations, and you could definitely feel the synergy, and as their panel earlier discussed, just the momentum the biotech, life sciences, med device ecosystem is really throttling forward with. So it was a really cool experience to be a part of. And this will kind of segue into the next slide. And as you have been told and reminded, CEVO BioHub received that $4.3 million Go Virginia grant to collaborate with UVA to establish the region's first lab accelerator at North Fork. So that event will happen next week, and there will be a ribbon cutting there again. And just let us know if you want to attend, and we can get you the information. Additionally, some of the photos from that expo were really great, and I'm happy to share the link to those photos too if anybody wants to just take a look through the slideshow and see what was going on. There were 3 Albemarle County exhibitors there. Ravenna Medical, you guys are familiar with. They're known for advancing their ultrasound technology. Lighthouse Instruments, which is a neighbor to Afton Scientific and their new expansion. They specialize in innovative pharmaceutical measurement solutions. Essentially, they're able to test quality control on vials and those types of products without breaching the seal. So they use light technology to maintain quality control. And Yes Fertility, and they're the pioneers in reproductive male health technology. So I'm happy to answer your questions.
And then we have Tourism for All on here again. That was supposed to be between last meeting and this meeting. The snow had them delay that. So we'll be talking next month. Next month, we'll be talking about that Tourism for All event. I think it sold out their space. And so it's just that, so Ashley.
I do think they have a few spots left. If anybody's interested in going, they said to reach out and contact, or we can flip flop, I think, some staff positions if need be, if anybody wants to go.
So Ashley will be attending that on our behalf, and it's these types of events are just a great, the whole. Sometimes for BRE, we're knocking on doors trying to see who will meet with who wants to meet with us, and this is a great opportunity to exchange business cards, start conversations that we can pick up later in a better setting. But it's a great opportunity to get some face time with companies that we may or may not have a good relationship or have a relationship with, and to be able to continue to see what we might be able to grow together. Thank you, Ashley.
Sure.
This is a better way of presenting the information that Director Long asked for at the last meeting. So these are some key dates. Most of these are hot off the presses. So the current comprehensive plan effort, AC 44, the Thriving Economy chapter is the chapter that most overlaps with the work of the EDA. And so that chapter will be before the Planning Commission, and I'm realizing that date is wrong. They moved it again. So March 11th, and we'll follow up with an email. March 11th is when that will be before the Planning Commission, and then the Board of Supervisors on April 2nd. The memorandum of understanding that you all took action on earlier today, tentatively, we'll get that on the agenda for April 16th. And then on the strategic plan, we'll be reaching out. We're still nailing down the specific dates, but we'll be reaching out to see if we can't schedule time for the EDA, Economic Development Strategic Plan consultants to do some interviews with you all while they're in town at the end of March. And then we're looking at having a final draft of that report done with a presentation in August.
Would it make sense for us at the March meeting to talk about the comprehensive plan? Yeah, because that's what we're talking about, the private economy plan. Would it make sense for us to look at it or talk about it?
Yeah.
At the meeting prior to the Board of Supervisors?
Yeah, so that would be after the Planning Commission, before the board. I think that'd be a wonderful time. We can add that.
Dynamic is that document? Is it like getting changed moment to moment, or is it kind of, is the die more or less cast on that chapter?
On that draft chapter. At this point, it's more or less, the die is more or less cast on that draft chapter. So we can make a copy available. I'll double check with the team that owns that document, but we'll get you one as soon as they've kind of said, okay, this is pencils down.
All right, other matters. So one other matter is the did everybody get this beforehand? Did this go out by email?
No, I
Okay.
this is in front of folks.
Okay, so everybody has a copy of this memo that Emily put together. So Jim Bowling, who is sort of the outside counsel, bond counsel for EDA, got a request from another lawyer who's representing a company who's interested in pursuing a taxable bond financing. They are interested in having the EDA do it, but our current rate structure would make it more expensive to have the EDA do it. Then there's apparently a financing authority in Wisconsin that can provide this type of conduit financing. And over the life of the loan would save them about $100,000. So while they would prefer to use us to do it, they also save $100,000. So they have asked if we would consider reducing our fees. And so for me, I think we should consider it. Obviously this is money that I would rather have them pay it to us than someone else, and it may not be quite as much as we might have anticipated. But it's still money that we would then be able to use for other purposes of the community. When we have revised the bond fees once 6 or 7 years ago, because they were a little unclear originally. We kind of did a survey, we looked at what other people were doing. I think the environment has changed. And there may be more opportunities to do these types of transactions as opposed to the non-taxable bonds, tax exempt bonds that we generally have done for nonprofits in the past, or sort of a different structure. So what we wanted to ask is, would the authority be willing to consider changing our fee structure, potentially get this bond financing and maybe others in the future? If so, then we'll go back and potentially look at what our options are, put together a targeted rate structure that we would bring back to the board at either a special meeting if we needed to do it faster or at our next meeting.
Is this business worth chasing in terms of, does it take a lot of work on the part of the county team? Is there risk involved? Is this just kind of like a pass-through
It's
thing where it's
it's a
just?
pass-
Conduit.
Yeah,
It's
it's pass
just-
through. There's no risk in the sense that we're not staking any of our authority. We have no liability. It might take it'll take the work to like come up with the new financing, and there's a little bit of paperwork that needs to be done, but that's about it.
Wow, okay, I like that.
Yeah, if we're the obligor to default, the county and the EDA are not responsible for any payments associated with the bond. It's truly a conduit that EDAs are enabled under state code to provide as a service. Typically, Albemarle County has only done tax exempt bonds on behalf of others, and from a little bit of background research that we've done, it sounds like just changes in the financial markets. 15, 20 years ago, these taxable bonds using EDAs as conduits was more normal, was a more normal activity for EDAs, and because of things that were happening in the financial markets, access to other more traditional capital then was easier to access. And now, here today in 2025, there's an expectation that we may see more of these types of requests come forward in the commercial sector.
And just because I can't really interpret this, what would be, if we did reduce the rates, what would be a sample fee total that the EDA would enjoy from doing?
So I think it's,
Typical transaction.
so I think it would be like the structure of I think it's Wisconsin, it would be, they would pay 40,000 at closing and then 3 basis points on whatever the principal balance would be. Annually, I think that's right.
Yep.
As opposed to, I don't remember what our rate would be higher over the life of, I think it's less to start with, but over the life of the loan, because I don't think it declines based on pay down. But I
So,
haven't done tax for calculations, so.
so there's no, what is our exposure on this? Really none? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah. I think the only risk is, I guess, might be the sort of race to the bottom type risk of, if we reduce our fees, somebody else reduces their fees, and you end up losing out, but I don't think that's much of a risk here. I don't, I think I don't know how many opportunities we'll have, so I think we should take advantage of this, but I do think we ought to do it in a consistent basis. Say, here's how we think about this particular type of financing, and this is what we're going to charge based on, the facts of this kind of financing.
So this is something that would be on the agenda for our next meeting then?
Yeah, unless they came back to us and said, we absolutely have to do this faster, in which case we could have a special meeting just to prove, but we'll put together a proposal. We think the right structure should be.
This is allowed.
No.
This is allowed under the statute.
Yeah.
Creating these.
Yeah.
We're about to have a new memorandum of understanding with the Board of Supervisors who was talked about. Right, isn't that was, I guess, one of the things in there, right, allowing us to use more of the statutory tools we have. I didn't know if this was something we wanted to.
I think this is
Not run by the board, but because it's within our authority. But we want to maintain good terms with them.
Yeah.
Right, so.
I don't think in the past, the fees that we've charged was ever fixed. It's way beyond. But, I don't know what you think. I mean, certainly we can share with them what we're gonna do, but I don't think they care. I guess.
Right, I mean, and it's money coming to the county that we can then turn around and use for.
Do other things.
For the other things that we're allowed to do. So I just wanted to make sure that.
No, that's a good.
That, I don't think we're overstepping, but I just wanted to make sure that. These were the things that we were talking about.
Yeah.
back in August or whenever we all jointly met, to say we want to do more of these things using our authority as granted by the statute, by the legislature. So I just wanted to make sure.
I mean, I don't have a problem. We'll see what happens.
I know, you all know this, the fees generated off of bond, when the EDA serves as a conduit issuer for bonds is the primary revenue source that the EDA has. This is an area where, if the EDA was interested in doing more of this, that increases that bottom line number on the new financial report, from the 1.3 where it's been, and just increases that rate of being able to capture some revenues to be able to program and do some of the other powers that are, under state code have always been there, and are more explicit in the MOU draft that you all will be advancing to the board of supervisors.
I think we kind of have a responsibility to be able to, or to try to build essentially the pot that we can then move forward into the community. If we have the opportunity, we actually, in my opinion, would be negligent not to take advantage of that. I mean, even if we don't see it right now, it's gonna be, further down the line. And to me, I think it's absolutely, we should consider it.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, great. We'll work on that. And actually, that's ties to my next point, which I was gonna say, it's, as we all know, all the things that have been happening in Washington. Uncertainty involving government. I've been thinking in my mind, how should we be thinking about it? What should we be doing? And, hearing this presentation today made me really realize that I think the best we can do is we obviously can't control what's happening there. And I think we need to be trying to put ourselves in the best position to be ready to do something once things are resolved. We can't just, because one of the things, well, should we stop all of this stuff? Should we, not? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. We need to be ready. We need to be able to act. We've got control over the things that we can control. Let's move forward. So.
When you're running any business, it doesn't matter what the environment is, you still have to make good business decisions. You can't make business decisions about, what other people are doing over here. You have to still make strong business decisions for your business. And if you look at this authority as a business, what would we do? We still have to make good decisions, regardless.
That makes sense. Anything else? Anybody to say? Emily, anything? Anyone else?
No.
All right. Well then, so our next meeting will be March 18th, 4 p.m. right here. And we are now adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, I should say that the scouts are selling mulch.